Action is often inspired by personal experience. Margaret Sanger's was sparked by personal tragedy. Born in 1879 to a working-class family of 13 in New York, Sanger experienced the struggles of a large family. Margaret Sanger's mother died from the immense physical toll of 11 live births and 7 miscarriages. Standing over her mother's coffin, Sanger looked her father in the eyes and said, "You caused this. Mother is dead from having too many children." Sanger's personal experience with the issue of reproductive freedom inspired a lifetime of devotion. In America in the early 1900s, contraception was deemed obscene. In fact, there were even laws called the Comstock Laws that criminalized the distribution of contraceptive information and contraceptives. Despite this opposition, Margaret Sanger would not be silenced. She believed that the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness so integral to America's definition of democracy should extend to all women. That control over their bodies and their health and their careers was necessary in order for women to experience liberty as men have been able to. Sanger pushed for this equality across class and racial barriers, hoping to re-emphasize the equality written into American democracy. Sanger's expansion of this democracy in the birth control movement was not perfect, though. It also came with a contraction of this democracy, as her support for part of the eugenics movement fueled the fire of her opposition and contradicted some of the equality that she was pushing for. The definition of democracy also emphasizes the importance of a government that rules by the consent of the people. How could the people, namely women, have a true voice in this government if they are not educated and if they are forced into a life to which they never agreed? In 1916, in an old, dilapidated building in Brooklyn, the first birth control clinic began to operate in secret. In efforts to avoid breaking the Comstock Laws, Sanger and her colleagues did not write anything down. While the clinic was open, it offered contraceptive information to hundreds of women. The success did not last long, though. After just 10 days, an undercover policewoman shut down the clinic and arrested Sanger. Although she was released shortly after, it was not long before she returned to jail for trying to reopen the clinic. In court, as Sanger appealed her conviction, the painful and moving stories women shared brought national attention to the birth control movement, and the verdict allowed doctors to legally prescribe birth control in New York. The clinic was only the beginning of Margaret Sanger's revolutionary work. She would later establish what would eventually become the Planned Parenthood Federation of America and help create the birth control pill. Sanger's push for birth control also led to a contraction of democracy, though, because of her support of part of the eugenics movement. Although Sanger adamantly opposed the racial and hierarchical implications of eugenics, she believed that, quote, the thoughtless propagation of degenerate, tainted, and enfeebled individuals is another atrocious danger to society. Even this agreement with part of the eugenics movement tainted her reputation forever. Sanger was accused of racism when she established the Nego Project to ensure that Black women had access to the same contraceptive information as white women, but Margaret Sanger actually worked against racism with African American activists like W.E.B. Du Bois. The association of Sanger's work with the eugenics movement caused a lot of backlash for the birth control movement that is still around today. But even so, Margaret Sanger's work for the birth control movement expanded the American definition of democracy for millions of women. She risked her freedom for the freedom of future women.